That was um, that was absolutely fantastic, absolutely fantastic. How are you, Karine?
I am very well. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited too. And look at what a treat! What a treat! Um, Welcome to the 172nd Mēlā of the ongoing YaarAnād virtual Baiṭhak series. This is the season 2, and I'm so glad that Jed, our very dear common friend, has made sure that we are in conversation with each other. He's the conspirator, is it?
Yes.
And he was speaking so very fondly of your work, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you. Also, because of your work with regard to some of the lesser known, composers and maestros that you have been able to map and to honor their work, discover first, and then to earn the right to be able to, as we in our tradition we say we earn the right to play a note which is touched by a master in a particular manner. How do you, the art of learning how to touch the note as touched upon by some of the finest minds? So I'm really looking forward to our conversation, but first I must welcome everyone, welcome everybody. Satkartar, a very good morning to everyone on the West Coast. And of course, it's past noon time in the East Coast. This is the 172nd Mēlā, but season 2 of the ongoing YaarAnād virtual Baiṭhak series. And I'm in conversation with Kariné Poghosyan, who's one of the finest pianists in our midst today. This is the 11th edition. Kariné is joining from live from New York, from a residence where she's been holed up since as I have been glued to my chair. And Kariné has been doing something very exciting, and I've just shared her Patreon page in the comments as well. And I welcome you to subscribe to her channel as well. And she is doing some phenomenal concerts every week after week. And she's quite something, believe you me. Kariné Poghosyan is an Armenian-American pianist, and I was just admiring her dad's painting, who's an artist, and I'm going to try and coax Kariné into, maybe enabling a conversation. I've fallen in love with the colors, and I mean, he's quite something. So she grew up in that environment. I mean, she's had art all around, colors all around, and sometimes, I mean, since I got introduced to her dad's work, I've been wondering whether she's a painter too. It's just that she's just painting without a brush with her fingers. She's painting notes. But we'll look into that. Kariné began her training in School of the Arts #1 in Yerevan, Armenia, subsequently attending Romanos, Melikian College and Komitas State Conservatory. Among her teachers in Armenia were Irinia Gazarian and Vatche Umr-Shat and Svetlana Dadyan. Kariné gave her orchestral debut at age 14, presenting Beethoven's Piano Concerto No. 1. I'll see if she still remembers. We'll maybe get to ask her that about the first, orchestral debut. At age 23, she made a solo debut at Carnegie Hall. Well, that's a 9-year journey from her first, debut, from debut to her solo debut at the Carnegie Hall. And then she moved to the United States and graduated with a B.M. summa cum laude from the California State University Northridge, studying under Professor Françoise Regnat and completing MM and DMA degrees at the Manhattan School of Music under Dr. Arkady Aronov with a thesis on Aram Khachaturian. I think she played his work in the beginning. Poghosyan teaches at the Manhattan School of Music. Her most recent performances are 2 sold out recitals at the Carnegie Hall's Zankel Hall, the second of which was a CD release concert of a critically acclaimed album, Rachmaninoff and Stravinsky. But then, we've all been somehow struck like lockdown struck, COVID struck, not love struck, but COVID struck. And the first week of the New York City lockdown in March, so Kariné reacted. She responded by launching a weekly virtual mini concert series on her Facebook page with an entirely new 30-minute program performed each week for a loyal worldwide following. And believe you me, I'm one of those loyal worldwide followers, and I invite you to join in into that, and you'll be treated to some healing music. I think we need a lot of healing. We need a lot of a lot of color. I think we're missing a lot of color in life, of course, but I think you'll be well served by sort of following her work as well in these days. These concerts have become immensely popular. They're almost like a tradition in itself, with a rapidly growing group of dedicated followers, even getting shout-outs from NY1 as well as Katie Couric. So that was your introduction, although I'm tempted to introduce, say, maybe a couple of lines in my native language, Punjabi, one of the oldest languages on the planet. So let's do that, and maybe you can speak some Armenian and say something in your mother and daddy tongue, to welcome friends in Armenia and, of course, other Armenian North Americans and South Americans. So, but my turn first before I pass on the microphone to you, Kariné. So, dosto, mere jani dushmano. Well, Kariné, the joke, my naughty way is that I say friends and my foes, my dear loving foes, my enemies and all the ghosts and devils, I include them all. So mere dosto, mere jani dushmano. जी आया नु आज 172वां मेला हैगा और आज जे सीजन दूजा है season second, as you all know, is dedicated to the 400th birth anniversary of the 9th Sikh Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur, who's the unparalleled martyr in history, for he sacrificed his life to protect a faith he did not even practice, the Hindu Dharma, giving his life to safeguard the Hindu tilaka and the janeu, the thread they wear. The 9th heir of Guru Nanak embodied a fearless commitment to the freedom to choose and practice one's own faith. It's very important to be reminded of that. I mean, there's one martyr in human history, a great prophet among prophets, who gave his life to protect another faith. 340 odd years ago. And and that, he embodied that, as I was saying, fearless commitment to the freedom to choose and practice one's own faith. He was a prolific Pahavaj exponent, the Indian classical drum. He was a poet and a singer whose musical contributions include Raga Jai Javanti. So दोस्तों जी आया नू मैं अर्ज कर रहा सी 172वां मेला हैगा 11वीं किश्त या एपिसोड हैगा दूजे सीजन दा ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ 400ਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਸ਼ ਪੁਰਬ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਹੈ। ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਪਿਆਨਿਸਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਕਾਰੀਨੇ ਪੋਗੋਸਿਆਨ, ਆਰਮੀਨੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਹਨਗੇ, Armenian-American ਹਨਗੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀ ਬੜੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਚਿੱਤਰਕਾਰ ਹਨਗੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਹਮਵਾਰਤਕ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਾ। ਆਓ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੁਝ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰੀਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ। So, Kariné, over to you. You want to welcome everyone from your part of the world? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. Jem Barimnir Bolor Hayri. Kusavumta Tajikistan Kais Hawatins.
That's it.
That's it. Short and sweet.
Is that all the Armenian that you remember? You New Yorker? Has New York spoiled you so much that you have only a few words to speak in Armenian, is it?
Short and sweet.
Yes. And as one of our friends from Kolkata, who's an actor, Ramanjit says, brava, stimulating performance, Kariné. So people are, and Rima is from, and many others have joined, but of course I welcome them all, saying stunning performance. The people really, I mean, how do you do this like magic? I mean, I'm always amazed by, I mean, I play percussion, so my hands do fly, but to let the fingers fly and create music, that's quite something. What is it like? What is it like to play the piano? My first question and follow-up second is, I mean, why piano? I mean, did your dad's canvas, his brushes, his colors did not sort of entice you into following your papa?
That's a very interesting question because I actually do paint a little bit, and I did, I did study with my dad a little bit, but my, I guess, loving relationship with my instrument started in not so loving way, surprisingly, because I was taken to have piano lessons as almost every in Armenia, and I positively hated it the first several years. I was a horrible student, very lazy, and never wanted to do what my teacher. I just wanted to improvise and just have fun and play fun things, not play these, scales and etudes. So it was almost fate that my parents took me to have piano lessons, and I got the start. But then around the age of 13, 14, I had this epiphany. I don't know, something changed in me. And I began to notice just how happy I am when I'm playing piano, and how I'm able to express things through playing that I cannot express in any other way. And so it just became my happy place. It really is.
That's fantastic. But I won't let you escape the question so easily. So was it the piano? Was it the piano that enticed you and drowned you, or did you become friends with the piano? What was it like?
You know what it is?
What was that epiphanic moment? Is yes, if you can share that.
I think as with many young people, I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher that I met at that age, because the teacher I had before that was a wonderful professional, but just really did not. I don't think that it was a good working relationship. In fact, I remember my very, very first performance. I was 7 or 8, and as I was getting ready to go on stage and perform, in front of 300, 400 people, my first ever big performance, and I was obviously very nervous. And backstage, I'm getting ready, and I saw all the other little children look up at their teacher and just kind of get these encouraging words and pats on the back. And so I went to my teacher, hoping that I would get similar kind of encouragement, but instead she said, "Oh, you're scared? Then go." And not really what I wanted to hear, but the interesting thing is that it actually had the opposite effect on me. It really, instead of intimidating me, it actually made me mad. I was like, God damn it, no, I'm not going home. I worked too hard.
I see.
It was some reverse psychology on her behalf.
So you were like the tough little girl even then, or?
Maybe. Who knows? Maybe. Yeah. Definitely some rebellious force
Yeah,
awakened there.
I can see a lot of warrior in you, like a warrior pianist for me. You're my warrior pianist.
So yeah, but then at 13 I met this other wonderful teacher, Irinia Gazarian, who just was so nourishing. Really, it was very simple. It wasn't like major change, pedagogically, but just the feeling of nourishment and support and belief. I have something in me. I have a certain gift in me that I never realized before, and I've not looked back since. That was the moment, I think.
So before I come to the first performance which you played, and as I was telling everyone while reading out your introduction, you're sort of underscoring the importance of a great teacher. That it is not always just the art form. It is actually the one who's introducing, who's binding the connector, the binder, who's sort of tying the thread, and the one who's holding the lens. If the lens is too shaky, I mean, what would we make out? So you're sort of is it that? Because I think so many artists, I wonder sometimes that how is it that, for example, Ramanjit, she's an actor. She, she played the sitar and she had a gold medalist in the university. She had music in her family. But what is it that somehow attracts to theater? So I wonder sometimes, right? I've got another friend, Siddharth, who's a painter, but who could have been a great musician. I mean, Madan Gopal Singh, who taught English all his life, did his PhD on films. I mean, but also sings Sufi music as a poet. So there's so many others who are just a poet. I mean, Maria Grazia Calandrone from Italy. I mean, she's a poet. But when I look closely, I see that the eyes are the same. The capacity to perceive and to express is the same. There's a universal link. It's like deep down the water is the same, deep within, but then the expression is different. It's like the water source is the same on an island, but you call this well an X well and that well color red, another well is called green, but the water source is the same. So is it just that we are somehow in our stride, we are introduced by chance, by sheer destiny? It's just someone whom we meet who introduces so beautifully to an art form, which is not less or more beautiful than the other art forms, but it's just at the time in our life that when we get introduced by someone very unique, very special, that we are able to understand, we somehow derive or we discover the meaning of that expression, like you did with piano. Am I right in saying that?
I absolutely, and I think it's a bit of a combination. I mean, there is something already innately in us when we're born that is not teachable. You just have it. There's a certain facility or ease that just flows through you. But I definitely believe that could be hindered or supported depending upon your environment and who's your family, who are your teachers. I'm incredibly grateful. As you already mentioned, I have a wonderful family, wonderful parents. My father is an artist, and my mother, by trade, is an engineer, but she also paints. And both are huge music lovers. And so from day one, I've had nothing but nourishment and support from my family, which you just cannot do without. I mean, it was such a crucial part of my journey, and to this day is. I mean, to this day, every major performance I have, you can guarantee that the night before that performance, or a couple of nights before, I am running through the program for my parents. That's like, I have musician. It's like a good luck omen. And they are my sincerest critics, but also biggest fans. And so support, nourishment, and you know, encouragement, they are just so vital to a young person, because you don't know. I mean, you're young. You know, you're not sure enough yet to believe in yourself and to have that drive as a 7. So I'm very grateful for that wonderful teacher.
But I read your post somewhere. You wrote that you hated your dad.
I did. Oh my gosh. Where did you read that? That's fake news. I have no idea where that's from. No.
It's, I mean, it's not alternate reality. It's not alternate fact. I think it was real.
Careful. Getting me into trouble here.
So,
but no, he's. I mean, we certainly have we're both very strong personalities. So you know, there are definitely enough moments of clashes. But no, he's such a sweet person and such a
I mean, also, you know, like my other friend, Navjot, he's a orthopedic, for example, I mean, tall, lanky, tough guy from Leicester, and his dad, for example, Dr. Surinder Singh Bhangu, who's also a physician. I mean, but his love, for example, Surinder's love for music, and then the aesthetics, you know, understanding. I mean, they could have been musicians and they would have been equally successful. But it's something that, you know, it's very unique how, that's, I think, the mystery, isn't it? That you could have, like, I'm an ex-pilot, right? And I was ruthless in what I did. And from making from making planes and winning competitions, I ended up handcrafting all the extinct musical instruments back to life. You know, that ability to create planes, I made instruments back to life. So it's like so funny. It's like life works in such mysterious ways, and but it's such a privilege, you know, but again, I mean, it's a privilege if you have a beautiful environment at home. But then I know of so many who've had like nothing in their circles, no music, no art, but then they're like extraordinary in what they do. Or no education, but they're some of the finest philosophers or thinkers or mathematicians or sociologists, the first generation. So that's. So take me to your age 14 concert. Do you remember what you played?
Yes, the Beethoven.
Why don't you share that with us? Let's see the 14-year-old Kariné. But is this very interesting that you had in this piece there are fingering techniques? It's almost like a pedagogical exercise. It's like almost like an exercise.
It's such an interesting piece. We have moments in there where, and this is one of my biggest fascinations with Beethoven, because if you actually sit through and explore his scores, like some of his biggest 45-minute long symphonies and things like that, you will discover that so much of it is actually so incredibly simple.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly as you said, we have moments in this piece where it's just endless. I mean, it sounds like an etude almost, right? Yeah. But I think it is Beethoven's genius where he takes something so minimal and simple, like a little seed, and out of that seed an entire glorious structure is, you know, put together. It's just unbelievable. I don't know if a composer can do that. He really has that.
But you know, looking at some of the you know, repertoire, I mean, the idea of where the the plane of pedagogy to actual pure music, when it transcends pedagogy, when it transcends mechanics, that music is where I think is very, very exciting when that happens. For example, reminded of, for example, you could have a major, something that corresponds to the major scale. Like this is an ancient composition. Just I'm singing this, the note names of the notes are like do, re, mi, fa, sol, like that. Just to give an idea of the melody to everyone. And look at the composition. Now this is where melody specific is there. It's melody heavy. Gur dukh kateya kino dan, kateya kino dan. For example. But then there is, or another one is, for example, Ranga vari tiro dekh tumhare. Now this also is now coming to the pedagogy, with my point which I want to underscore. There is a composition from the third quarter of the 16th century by the fourth Sikh Guru Ramdas. And look at this. Bolo, so the sixth, fifth, Bolo Bhaiya Ram Naam. Second, Patit Pavano. So the Sa is the key note and it's coming back, but it's coming step by step. Bolo Bhaiya Ram. So sixth, fifth, 4-3, 4-5, 4-3, 3-2, 3-4, 3-2, 3-2, 1. So it's a technical structure. It's called the Murshana Bhed. But then it's not just that. It has become a melody. And Bolo Bhaiya Ram Naam Patit Pavano. Now, the follow-up line is again going to go one note by one note. Har Sant Bhagat Tarano Har Bhar Pure Raya Jale Thale Ram Naam Nid Gayar Dukh Bisareno Bolo Bhaiya Ram Naam. So Sadha Nizari Nire, quarter tonic movement. Sadha Nizari Nire Gama Re Gama Pai Gama Pai De Ma Pai De Ni Sa Sa ends there. Nid Gayar Dukh Bis. I mean, it's like I as a pedagogue, normally people don't even know that. So within the core of the tradition, where we look at the grammar, where we look at the architecture, where we look at how the notes are placed, how the mutualism between the melody, the pace and the rhythm, the text and the intent. And like one is just filled with awe, right? These grand masters centuries ago, what were they doing? I mean, and you're reminded when you played that. So it reminds me of such compositions from my heritage as well, where you think it is a musical exercise, but it's not just an exercise. It's not an exercise no more, even if it is coming in an order. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 notes. You make Sare ma gare sama ge sama re ga ma sare gare ma sa ga ma re sa ga ma re ge sama gare ma sa ge re ga ma sare ma ge sa re ga ma sa ge re ma sare ma ge sama re ge sa ga ma re sama ge re sa. 24. 4 notes will make 24 combinations. So it's pedagogy. But then how do you transcend? And they're in an order. So the first is sa re ga ma, and the last one, 24th, is ma ge re sa. And it is sa re ga ma pa. 120 combinations, and we are like taught as a pedagogue. I like, one can sing 7 notes will 5040 variants. I just finished writing them just the other day. But then to go from that to music, and that I think is the genius of these grand composers. I mean, how these compositions are lived. That they're like what my elders would say, nit nama. They're like ever new. They're old, but they are like as if they are written for the future. And that future is also today. What is your experience of these compositions?
Well, Beethoven himself said that very, very often. He would always write in journals and letters that he's not writing for, because understandably his music was quite often misunderstood and not appreciated by his contemporaries. So he would specify that he's not writing for them, he's writing for future. And I completely agree with you how in the hands of a great genius composer, something so simple can be something so complex and deep and exactly as you said, always new. It's never repetitive, never boring. It's always new.
So that was at age 14. And then at 23, how was the journey like? What happened between age 14 and 23 and the Carnegie Hall debut? And that was like last year, is it? You're 24 now.
You're very kind. Sure.
I'm a very kind fellow, yes. So tell us about the Carnegie Hall, the first debut. How was it like? Were you? I mean, I was there with Jordi Savall in last year. Last year. At the Carnegie Hall, witnessed him and our friend, my friend Daud Khasadozai played the rabab. He was also part of the same work that Jordi Savall had done. It's quite a venue. And what was it like for you at age 23?
Incredible. It just to this day it feels like a dream. It was just such a just the actual building itself. It feels like it's glowing. As you're approaching it, there's like light emanating from it. This is a very special day. And the interesting thing is every time I'm back, last time was November last year, 2019. Every single time you go back, it's the exact same feeling, the butterflies, the excitement, and there is a certain magic in that actual geographical location. Like I believe that there's something special in that building, and you, as an artist, you're elevated to another level. And I love playing. I cannot wait to get back until this craziness is over. Go back and perform.
I know. I mean, my friend Roberto Procera told me there was a time when in Italy after the lockdown, the first opening was, and he was in Sicily, and he had a concert at the Conservatory there, and there were people, and he told me, and we spoke immediately after. He said, I cried today on stage. When I saw people, I said, so imagine, imagine. Yeah. I think we are learning the hard way the worth of the audience, isn't it? And the audience is also learning. I think Steven Colbert did something yesterday about the movies. He says, I can watch any movie, like any movie. It can be a comedy. It can be a dog. Which is teaching how to live. It can be anything. I just want to sit with people, and I can walk in dirty theaters where my feet are doing chip 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 because coke or whatever has fallen down. I can sit anywhere. I just want to be in a theater, watch even junk. I think that's the desperate state. He summed it up so well.
So true. It's so true. I mean, it's interesting because I have been. And you already mentioned my Patreon. I've been thinking so hard how to at least come somewhat close to that. And so, I'll be doing these Zoom recitals where at least I can't be physically with the listener, but at least I see the little squares, the audience, and I see their, I mean, just the actual visual of the smile in their
Yeah.
faces and the emotion that this piece evoked is so vital to music making. You just you need that. It's a relationship, the audience and performer. So, oh yeah, I miss live concerts. What can I say?
Yeah. But looking at the positive of it, I mean, of course, downside's a downside. But it's almost like, I mean, normally we just play and we get recorded and we get posted on YouTube, etc. And years later, like I'm watching, let's say, or listening to an audio recorded in 1901 or 1899, 1900, 1906, 7, 10, 1828, or videos that were recorded, later. We are, I mean, those masters are conversing with us through that medium, and something that we would never have been able to experience, like them. They never got to see us watch their videos, right? In those windows that you see are the people as if they are the future. And we are able to see and talk to those windows, and those windows are going to be taken by different people. They will change, but we are talking to those who will come and take those black spots, those squares and rectangles in the thing. I think it's a quite an experience.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I made my, Roberto told me, because he knows the guys who started Patreon, and he forced me that I should have my own account. So I started my account, and I have not gone back for the last 6, 7 months. So I've been so occupied in writing and hosting the series. It takes a toll of time, at least.
Yeah.
Let us look at the pedagogical part of your, from the first teacher to the second teacher. And when I was talking about being 14, the first performance in which you performed Beethoven, and then, being at the Carnegie Hall. What did you play in your debut, when you made your debut?
Oh, that was so long ago. I did a Beethoven E minor sonata, and then I did.
Kariné, hold on. I'm just giving you tips. Never say long time ago. We don't want to tell people, right? I said last year you were 23 last year.
I see.
So don't
Yes.
think aloud, oh, it was a long time ago. That's a problem.
Oh,
Never say that. Anyway, go ahead.
2020. Anything prior to 2020 feels like, oh, that was a millennium ago.
Yes.
That's
That way is good, yeah. That's a good cover up.
yeah. But yeah, and then I played the Rachmaninoff, the second sonata. I was very, very happy to, after the concert, I saw there were a few reviews written of specifically Rachmaninoff that were very encouraging. And, as a young person making a debut, that felt so wonderful. That was a very important moment as I had transitioned to New York City. It was my first full year in New York. And it just felt like a wonderful pat on the back for a young person. It really, that I'm doing something right. I'm on the right path.
Right. And then to look at your teachers, what is it like? I mean, and you're a pedagogue, you teach. How do you, I mean, you as a maestro, how do you practice? Like when you sit down, normally students don't realize that people who are seniors, they need to work on the basics too. Like how much time do I spend sometimes looking at at a single note, and the approach to that single note, re, re, sa, ne, re, sa, re, ke, re, re. It's like entire storytelling can happen. Re, to the mind when you're talking to the mind. But people who are who are still making that scramble to become famous, to become in that, to get that first break, to get that first hit, they forget the value of working hard, of the basics. So tell us about, how do you prepare for concerts? How do you keep your muscles toned, your fingers? I mean, what is your regimen, if you can? That will be very, very enlightening for all of us.
Sure. My number one advice to, every time someone asks me as far as how to be efficient in practice and preparation is journal.
No, but I'm asking you today, not everyone. It's just you're talking to me.
Journaling. I can even show you. I have it right here. I have kept journals my whole life, and
I see.
Every morning I begin with my morning cup of coffee. Ah, there it is. Yay! Great minds. You have to sit down and it's like the daily contract with oneself. You have to.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Daily contract with oneself. So well said.
Make it as far as what is my intention, what am I going to work on? Where is the peak? Like, where's the peak of Mount Everest? And okay, how do we get there? Where's the next step and then next? So I construct a plan, and even if I don't reach it, even if I don't check off every single box, it creates such a sense of control and intentionality. I think intentionality is the most important thing about practicing and preparing, because I know a lot of young people who will just say, I'm going to practice 4 hours today. Well, great, but what are you going to do in those 4 hours? You don't want to just robotically just move the fingers for 4 hours and then feel, yay, I did work. So that is the alpha, that is the omega. That's so important for me to have that organization.
So, can you play some things that you practice? Like how would you?
I don't have like exercises and warm up pieces and things like that. I'm very different in that way. I'm not a believer in playing every single scale before a practice session. Every piece you play has certain passages that you can use to get yourself, warmed up a little bit. Like, for example, let's say one of my favorite pieces is Hungarian Rhapsody No. 7 by Liszt. And in the middle there's this really, really fun passage work where now you can turn that into a little warm-up and just do that a little bit slow. There you go. That's your little exercise. You don't have to do hours, separate things. You're already working on the main piece, but it also gets you physically and mentally opened up a little bit. That's my process. I don't do warm-up exercises. Yeah, I'm very different in that way.
So there are no scales that you do daily. Like, the keyboard doesn't attract you? It bores you. You're doing that. It's like you don't want anything to do with that, right?
Yeah. No. I mean, I just. I think that's the.
You know that I just caught you red-handed. Okay.
It's interesting. I think it's that 7-year-old in me that was not completely seeing eye to eye with my first teacher, because even then I just hated doing exercises and doing these like things that seemed outside of where my soul is. My soul just wanted to play, and when I sit down to first thing in the day, early in the morning, I just start playing. I'm not I don't need to warm up. I don't need to necessarily spend half an hour doing. Instead, I can just practice. I can do the Chopin thirds etude. You can do that if you absolutely have to warm up. But I believe in awakening the creativity first and foremost, and then the physical awakening comes.
I would want to share also this perspective, which I have. There's a very important segment, friends, which I'm having with Kariné, because how do we practice? I mean, there's a section, for example, when I teach my students, I make them. There are parts when I'm making them do the scales, but then the most advanced level of learning, even in our tradition, in the Gurbani Sangeet, the Gurbani music, is something very similar to what Kariné just mentioned, as one of India's top musicologists. Professor N. Ramanathan would often say that an ornament is not an ornament, it is part of a composition. So when now you look at how we practice, when it is a part of a composition, that means it can only exist in a certain space. Only then you will know the value of that particular ornament, how it exists. So what Kariné is actually referring to is something what we do also. Let's say if I'm, it's a composition very old, my granduncles were waiting with their father, and the legendary Baba Jwala Singh, waiting for the boat because they'd gone across the river Byas and they had to wait for it to come. So a bed was made for him under the tree on the banks of the river Byas, and somebody started, one of the students or one of the sons and nephews, a couple of them took his feet and he rested for some time, and then he says, okay, take the instruments out. And he taught this composition there on the banks of river Byas, waiting for the boat. And it's a masterpiece, and goes, Pujo, Pujo Ram, this is a 12 beat, 1, 2, 3. But then how they would work on this? Now you cannot just take the musical notes out. You will take a limb of a composition, and you would look at it again and again. And you would repeat it again. So what she is mentioning is that she would look at something and then repeat it. And when we have the concept of the laykaris, the multiple variants within the singing of pade, whether they're ikpade, dupade, tipade, chaupade, panchpade, the dhurpad format or chant, we would do variants of the same. For example, if it is the composition like Besare Gaisa, and then double. Besare Gaisa Tat Parai, and then Besare Gaisa Tat Parai Jabate Sad Sangat Mohe Vai Besare Gaisa Ta. So the melody, look at what is happening. And in these repetitions, when you're making a variant of it, a new ornament is being born. And when you are slowing it down, other ornaments are being born, others are dying. So when she demonstrated a fast piece and then slowing it down and analyzing it, but it's looking at the melody. So it's a practice for the performance, but yet it is the bathing, the virtuoso, the maestro's bathing in a way, freshening up. Is that, do you think there's a match here between what you're doing, how the virtuosos and maestros are doing in the West to something that I've just shared with you and others, Kariné?
In fact, what you are, what you're inspiring me to, it's really, really magical. What seemingly very different traditions, but also similar, and it's very inspiring because I think one of the big difficulties with classical music, I think, is becoming the danger of becoming too technical and becoming intimidated by tradition and all these, great men that have created these masterpieces, and becoming too shrunk from that pressure to not then have the freedom to do what you just did, which is explore. I think it has to be always very creative, very experimentative. Then you as an artist find something totally new that has not been done before. I mean, that is the value. There's 7+ billion of us on the planet, but we're not the same. There's 7 billion entirely different souls, different creative minds, and we each have something very unique to share with the world if we allow ourselves to, in spite of all this tradition, all this pressure, and all the great technique that we have, put all of that aside and be able to actually go within and explore and question, and as you just did, take a phrase apart and listen and maybe tweak it and change it a little bit. So I definitely agree with you, and I'm very inspired by what you're showing me.
Another one that comes, Mahbube Godage, Mahbube Godage, Mahbube Godage, Mahbube Godage. So looking at Rasool ko pyara, Ratatamana, 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 Ratatamana. And we would sit like for hours and hours looking at a phrase, and only if it inspired us to spend those hours. And not just one piece, but the entire composition. I think this is for me also very, very powerful, a parallel that you shared, that you sort of triggered that, similarity. I mean, that. Now, to come to your work on, we've looked at Beethoven's work, and I think you began with Aram Khachaturian's piece. But you've a special affinity with Franz Liszt. Would you tell us something about that and play something?
Sure.
So that we can actually believe that you know Franz Liszt.
Can we ever really know?
I mean, I also know about Franz Liszt, but I don't even know a single note to play on the piano. I have a piano here, but I don't know how to play Franz Liszt. So let's try to find the distinct difference between me and you. Me taking Franz Liszt's name and you taking Franz Liszt's name.
Yeah, I would love to share with you the piece. I don't know if we have time to do the whole thing, but it's the Hungarian Rhapsody No. 7. It's one of my oldest friends in a way, because I've played this piece since I was a teenager, and I never tire. Every time I play, there's something new. And Franz Liszt, he had an incredibly inspiring journey and biography. He is in a way the Elvis Presley of piano.
Yes.
He was an absolute rock star when he was performing. You know, women were fainting in the audience and all of that. And, he established. He's the musician credited with having established the term recital, where one solo artist is on the stage for the entire program playing memorized program. No one had done that before, and no one had dared to believe they're worthy of, an entire concert hall filled with people to sit there for 2 hours or so and listen to one person. You know, and he's the first egomaniac. Deserves it to actually have just such a charisma on the stage. I mean, I wish I could have witnessed him play, because based on accounts of witnesses, it just wasn't, like I said, like Elvis Presley or Beatles or something like that. It was just electrifying. He was a tremendous virtuoso, of course, one of the most virtuosic composers for the instrument. But in addition to that, he also it was a man of great thought and great faith, and he always, especially towards the end of his life, he got more and more spiritual. He actually took orders with the Catholic Church, and so that also inspires me, that idea of seeking higher truths and never tiring of seeking where you belong within the world, within the cosmos. I think that's such an inspiring thing for a musician. Yeah, he was incredible.
So,
and
what are you how are you remembering him today? What are you sharing with us of Franz Liszt? That's a beautiful, very, very awesome, awe-inspiring introduction. It shows how much you have known him.
Well, I wish I'd known him in person.
Yeah, this is knowing him. Look at, it's very beautiful. Your narration about Franz, you just, as I said, that you're a painter. You just painted his portrait. You brought him alive. We were, as if we were one of the audience. You're quite a storyteller. Not just a storyteller, but that's a beautiful narration. What are you remembering of Franz Liszt? Yeah.
Yeah, this piece, it's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 7. The interesting thing about the Rhapsody, obviously he's Hungarian, so there is a bit of a nationalistic statement. But at the same time, what is fascinating about them is they're actually inspired by the Romani culture. I think the older term was gypsy, but that's not, it's not the correct term anymore to use. The name of the people is Romani. And they have very distinct scales, like, for example, the augmented second. That idea is everywhere in this piece, and it's a lot of fun. I'd love to play.
Beautiful. Let's that. Wow. That was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, that was. Say,
Playlist
yeah,
a little bit.
I believe you now. Our very dear friend, Professor Francesco Palazzo from the Conservatory of Bari is saying greetings from Italia. Bravissima.
Grazie, grazie.
And one of it. Say that again. I think there was a voice, there was audio loss. Can you say that again?
Monkey. I miss Italy. I miss Italy so much. I haven't been back in almost 2 years now, so I cannot wait to go back.
Yes. Yes. And we've one of India's top poets, Shudip Sen, is also enjoying, saying lovely session. And so that was Liszt. Now I'm sort of intrigued about I don't know how much time we have, but your thesis on you worked under Dr. Arkady Aronov, whom my very dear friend Czeslaw Balasingh Poghosyan, who's from the Conservatory of Paris, and a student of Vatche Umr-Shat, who runs the New York Conservatory. He mentioned that he knows about Aronov. It was, very, very respectfully he was remembering him. What was it like to study under him, and then you're doing the thesis on Aram Khachaturian? I mean, why Aram? Was it what is it that attracted to Aram's work?
I I mean, it's mostly because it is not known as much, and I feel that's great injustice. I think it's incredible music. His most known works are his ballet, excerpts from his ballet that are very often performed in, symphonic part of, symphonic concerts on the stage outside of the ballet, as well as ballet productions. But I discovered that he also has some incredible piano pieces that the world should know.
I see.
And went digging, and I found a lot of beautiful, beautiful music that I decided to explore and research and write about. And then, as you research, you also, as a performer yourself, you begin to fall in love with it. So I decided then to start playing a lot of it, and was very grateful that Max engaged me to do a recording of his solo piano works.
Can we? Are the CDs etc. still available? Can you show? I see that's the one.
Recording, and I'm so proud. It really, really was my first baby, and it made the initial rounds for the Grammys actually. So
I see.
So
that's fantastic. So I know that we have limited time, and I actually, I started my 12-day intensive retreat, teaching my retreat today, which is a biannual retreat. It's been on for 25 years. So it began today. It's till the 20th of this month. And I have to also get back. I know that you have another engagement. I was thinking maybe we can, this is a conversation we'll maybe whenever we can, our itineraries matching, maybe in a few weeks we can sit again and continue the conversation. There's so much that I need to ask you about the pedagogy, about your, your study, and then of course your teaching, and about other, you work on Rachmaninoff and Stravinsky. I mean, there's a lot that one can go on. And I'd love to map, at least one piece each in in our conversations. Each time we can focus on something particular. And also your insights are very, very powerful, and I think very important for students of music. Not just, it does educate us as listeners. We become informed listeners. We become educated listeners, and not just there for the sake of it and clap because others are clapping. The kind of audience we usually have. Maybe we can, towards the end of our conversation today, we can have something as given the time. If you can share with us something, one full piece, if possible, given the time, of Aram Khachaturian's work, and then next time we continue the conversation from there on. What do you think?
Sure. I played his toccata in the opening. Trying to think what would be a good piece also. Some of my absolute favorite pieces are some of his longest pieces, so I don't know if we will have. But I definitely recommend young piano lovers, piano music students, to please explore his piano sonata. It is a beast. It's close to 25-minute long masterpiece, and it's one of his later works. It was in 1961, and he died in 78. And it's such a fascinating piece. I have, as I was exploring it, I found that there are shortened versions where some pianists try to make it less than 25 minutes and cut some of it. I am vehemently opposed to that. I think it should be played. Every single note is there for a purpose. But,
very well said. Very well. It's a very important one, what you said, yeah.
Yeah. I could play the Adagio from Spartacus. Would you
fantastic.
Like that?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is the piano transcription by a wonderful American pianist, Matthew Cameron. The transcription from his ballet Spartacus, the Adagio. beautiful piece. Oh, I cannot hear you.
I said unbelievable, unbelievable. You're playing, and of course the piece, yes, it's an amazing piece. It's very moving. For me, you know, when I was listening to you, it was like I was introduced to the fact that the notes are there behind the keys. Or if you spoke with the key, it'll introduce you to the note, but they're hiding, and you're like playing hide and seek. And then when you know, you're finding them in that game that you play. You're able to find the note, but then you find them, and then you play sometimes softly, sometimes at passion, and that vigor and that rigor. You know, from the fragrance to the sweat. It's what a range. I mean, fantastic. What a range of emotions that you're able to take us from silence to from sheer silence to sheer music, if I may.
Thank you.
How is the experience? I mean, for what is it that you are? What do you feel when you're playing that? One can see it, the joy on your face, the despair sometimes, the longing sometimes, love sometimes. It's there written. I mean, what is the experience like?
It's very difficult to describe, but I think it is the freest that I feel in, you know, in any other from any other experience in life. It really is complete freedom, because exactly as you said, it's like there's something there, but it's behind a veil, and you are just constantly exploring, and that's why it never gets tiring for me. I can play any of these pieces every single day and never get tired of them, because there's something new to discover every single time. But what it feels like freedom. It feels like flying. I don't know. It's the best feeling in the world. I'm very grateful to the performer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much for taking time out. I don't know. You have to leave, isn't it? And I must get back to my class as well. Back into the fire, as they say.
Yes.
Out of the pan into the fire, back to reality. But thank you so much for taking time out, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, my pleasure. Yeah. So friends, there was my conversation with pianist and pedagogue, really, Kariné Poghosyan. And I'll see you tomorrow. I have two Baiṭhaks tomorrow. One is with the farmers' protest that you're all aware of. Is a very, very important conversation that I have plans for tomorrow. Will be with a photographer Bandeep Singh, and he has been documenting the entire conversation there that is happening. I think it's very, very important. So it'll be at 11:30 a.m. That I will see you guys tomorrow, and then I'll be traveling to Pakistan, to Islamabad. Incidentally, I have two Baiṭhaks tomorrow. Bandeep's was a last-minute thing. We've been thinking about it for quite some time, but we never got to finalize that. I mean, because he was busy and I've been also busy with other projects. Wajiha Ather Naqvi, she'll be joining us live from Karachi at 3:30 p.m. Pakistan time and 4 p.m. India time, and then of course at 7:30 then I will be back to my teaching. So I hope to see you tomorrow, and until then I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. As I said, that please do follow Kariné's Patreon page, do subscribe to her work, and you know, on Facebook her pages are there, and you know, celebrate music and some of the finest composers with her as well. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you soon tomorrow. Khuda Hafiz, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. A very good night, buonanotte, Italia, and a tutti Satkartar.